Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks for allowing me to present our research article, Undergraduate Students, Misconception about Projectile Motion After Learning Physics During the COVID-19 Pandemic Era. This research background, physics is a part of natural science that plays an important role in the development of science and technology. Physics learning aims to develop thinking skills so that students are able to use the concept of physics to explain phenomena and problems in daily life both quantitatively and qualitatively. Face-to-face meetings should not be held during the COVID-19 pandemic era as an effort to prevent transmission of the virus. Face-to-face learning is being replaced by online learning. In these conditions, the selection of models, methods, and learning media are limited. So, if lecturer don't choose right models, methods, and learning media, it may cause misconception. Misconceptions is a term to express the difference between the concepts that someone understands and that which scientist understands. Students who have misconception believe that they understand the right concept, but that concept is wrong according to the scientists understand. This research is a qualitative research with descriptive methods. Descriptive research aims to create a description of the data collected based on the facts in the field. The subject of this study were 52 first-year students, undergraduate students of the Physics 2 Education Program, University of Bengkulu. The data collection methods were tests, questionnaire, and interviews. The tests and questionnaire used were provided through Google Forms. Then the interviews were done via WhatsApp. Analysis of misconception test data using the metric. The answer thrown with CRI scale levels were used to determine categories of students. The questionnaire and interviews were written narratively. Data collection methods for the test. The test was equipped with a certainty response index CRI to determine the level of confidence of students in using answers. The CRI scale used from 0 to 5 is described in table 1. If the CRI number is high, 3 until 5, but the answer choice is incorrect, the student may have a misconception. Data analysis, the answer chart with CRI scale levels were used to determine whether students have lack of knowledge the concept, knowledge of the correct concept, or misconception. After grouping students into these categories, the percentage calculation for each category was performed using the following formula, with P is the number of group percentage, F is the number of students in each group, and N is the number of all students investigated. Result and discussion. 5.13% students had lack of knowledge about projectile motion. 28.85% students had knowledge the correct concept about projectile motion, and 66.02% students had misconception about projectile motion. The results of this study are following the studies that state the majority of students experience misconception on two-dimensional motion, and especially on projectile motion. And this for its concepts. Table 3, the highest ratio of misconception experienced by students on the concept of the velocity at the highest point is not worth 0 was 82.69%, followed by the percentage of misconception in the concept of the length of time in the air is the same for its kick angle if the maximum height of the ball is equal by 75%, and the lowest percentage of misconception is in the concept of the acceleration of the ball is always negative is the upward direction is considered positive by 40.38%. Discussion. For the first concept, the length of time in the air is the same for its kick angle if the maximum height of the ball is equal. Student understanding that the angle of the object in the projectile motion affect the length of the object in the air. This is based on the equation. In addition, the results of this study are in line with research conducted by Busairi and Zuhdi, where most students who experience misconception because the ball reached the longest distance, while the length of the ball in the air is determined by the maximum height that ball reach. The second concept, the acceleration of the ballet is always negative, is the upward direction is considered positive. Students deal with the object's acceleration to be positive when the object rises, decreases up to reach zero at its highest point, and negative when the object falls. This result is in line with research that states that students think that acceleration is constantly changing, even though the acceleration of an object is the acceleration of gravity, always constant. And third concept, the velocity at the highest point is not worth zero. Students assume the assumes the velocity at the highest point is zero. Student guessed that the velocity at the highest point is zero because the ball stops moving. Even though the object is still moving and its velocity at the highest point at the horizontal direction is not zero. Online learning of projectile motion. The result of questionnaire and interviews show the lecturer has a correct understanding of the concept of projectile motion, but the teaching method is not quite right. Students only focus on how to solve problems based on the formulas for projectile motion, not concepts that are important to understand. As a result, students could not apply the equation to the concept of projectile motion when answering virtual experiment equation because it is different from what is discussed in class. Even though lecturers need to provide complete information for avoid misconception, lecturers need to know and explain concepts on a projectile motion that might be misunderstood. The lecturer assessed that the student didn't participate actively in learning. Students also state that they didn't actively ask questions, tended, tended to be silent when asked. Some students were not enthusiastic about learning because they admitted that it was difficult to following learning that seemed fast. The lecturer said that the majority of students were not in class when the virtual meeting took place, only seemed active, but when called, didn't respond. The influence of unstable connection signal also affected students' focus. While online video conference requires a strong connection signal, this is considered with the research that states that online learning experience challenges such as internet connection, specification of students' gadget, internet quotas, and learning processes that become lacking communication activities time constraints, and controlling students' attitude during learning. So, this research conclusion 5.13% of students have lack of knowledge the concept, 28 66.85% of students had knowledge of the correct concepts, and 66.02% had a misconception about projectile motion after online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic era. Students learn physics via online meeting with direct instruction model and ask answer method associated with only applied problem and virtual practicum. Only few of the students learned physics and responded to the lecture during the online meeting. In an effort to reduce misconception, remediation learning is required. Lecturers need to improve online learning strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic era. Okay, thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.